Good evening. My name is Latanya Reeves, and I'm Chair of the Community Commission on Police Oversight. Before we begin, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. Additionally, before we proceed with our roll call, I'll note that we have new commissioners with us today. Do we have new commissioners with us here today? No? I think there's no new ones here. Oh, we should be good. Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask to call this regular meeting to order and call roll, please.
Commissioner McElhenney is absent. Commissioner Shanfield?
Present.
Newman?
Present.
Clement?
Present.
Palmer is absent. Baker?
Present.
Stewart is absent. Zyla?
Present.
Kennedy?
Present.
Bartz?
Present.
Andrali is absent. Williams Johnson is absent. Smith?
Present.
Vice Chair Olson?
Present.
And Chair Reeves.
Present.
There are 10 members present.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Commissioners, the agenda for this evening's meeting is before us. I'm not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda, so let me ask if there are any amendments to the agenda from commissioners. All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a proper motion to adopt the agenda as presented. The clerk will call the roll on the motion to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner Shanfield?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Clement?
Aye.
Baker?
Aye.
Zyla?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Bartz?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson?
Aye.
And Chair Reeves.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes.
Thank you. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next, we have one set of minutes to accept from our October 15th regular meeting. May I have a motion and second to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, we have a proper motion and a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Shanfield?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Clement?
Aye.
Baker?
Aye.
Zyla?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Bartz?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson?
Aye.
And Chair Reeves.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes.
All right, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next, in the order of public comments, we'll open the floor to any comments from the public, giving each speaker 2 minutes to address the commission. We'll be taking speakers in the order they registered. If you wish to address the commission tonight and haven't already done so, you may register with the clerks at the side of the dais. If any speaker has printed materials, please give those to the city clerk. We also invite folks to submit written comments using the forms available from the city clerk to be included in the public record as an alternative to speaking at tonight's comment section. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to address the commission tonight. We have a timer to assist speakers in monitoring their use of time. With that, I'll open the public comment period. We have no speakers. All right. Thank you very much. We complete the public comment section of the agenda. The next order of business is reports. We'll begin with the report from the Office of Police Conduct Review. I will ask Associate Director Fujisawa to come up and speak, and I've allocated 10 minutes for this report.
Good evening. Again, my name is Russell Fujisawa. I am the Associate Director of the Office of Police Conduct Review. Just as usual tonight, we'll move through just some quick background, some updates on staffing, and then our usual intake and administrative investigation updates, as well as a quick review of our review panel progress throughout the year. As you all know, OPCR is responsible for handling police misconduct investigations, and our jurisdiction is complaints lodged by members of the public, whereas Internal Affairs handles internal sworn members and city employees. Just a quick note here. I know you've seen this org structure a number of times. I just want to highlight that we have a plan for our last 2 vacancies. We have an investigator starting on December 1st, so coming up in about a couple weeks. And then we have another candidate for the last position of case investigator moving through background right now with a conditional offer to start on the 15th of December. So by the end of the year, we should be fully staffed. And this is obviously a huge step forward. I know this year there have been a lot of staffing updates. There's been a lot of progress. And I think a lot of the work that we have shown with that staffing it just highlights the importance of having good people in roles, training them, and moving through the casework efficiently, effectively, and transparently. So I'm really excited to have a fully staffed team and to be really understanding what our full capability and capacity looks like so that we can start to have some projections on compliance and start moving towards those next conversations about progress in the office. As always, our intake process is, our first contact with complainants. That is really the bread and butter of our office in terms of interacting with the public, understanding what their complaint is, identifying policies, identifying officers, making sure that it's in our jurisdiction. I think it's important to understand that the distinction between our jurisdiction and internal affairs is not only just who the complaint is coming from, but also the context of the complaint, right? Internal sworn members and city employees have oftentimes a much better understanding of the policies and procedures that the police department is required to adhere to. Oftentimes when we get a complaint from a member of the public, it is a description of an interaction and of what their perceived issue with conduct is. They don't always attribute a policy violation to that. So what they may believe was misconduct may not always be the case, but it's important to understand that intake and that complaint receipt is what triggers our review of the entirety of that event and interaction between that member of the public and an officer of the police department here in Minneapolis. So that's just an important distinction that really sets up the full intake review that we undergo in those first 30 days after the receipt of complaint. With that, taking a look here, you can see, I think, the numbers that I'd like to draw your attention to. Year to date, we've already received 360 complaints. Of those 360 complaints, right now we have 143 in our intake queue. Of those 143, 36 are less than 30 days old, so still in compliance with the settlement agreement and consent decree terms. Those out of compliance are 107. Of those 107, 24 are currently assigned to investigators, and 83 remain pending assignment. This is our challenge right now, right? Working through these in a timely fashion, making sure that we are adhering to the requirements of the consent decree in terms of receiving, acknowledging, and communicating the case number and really the intake status of these complaints as they come in. I do want to call out that this bottom number of 22 days, so this is the average length of the intake review once a case is assigned to one of our team members. So our work is technically in compliance in terms of how long the duration of that review period, but due to the number and the volume of cases that we have, that's what takes us out of compliance. So I want to highlight the good work that our team is doing. It's just managing the volume. And then just taking a look, we've seen this iteration, we've seen iterations of this over the course of the year. This trend is what is problematic and what is challenging for our office, right? And why these 2 new staff members that are coming on in the next month are really key, because you can see both both complaints and inquiries are increasing at a pretty substantial rate. And although inquiries do not result in cases and that thorough intake investigation, they still do require a lot of staff time, a lot of resources to make sure that it is not a complaint or that it's something we need to get to another agency, another department within the city, and still be responsive to that individual. So just we want to make sure that we have this as sort of the backdrop of all the work that we're doing on the intake side, and sort of what our compliance metrics look like and what the outlook looks like to get there within compliance for all of our intake complaints, not just the investigative work. This was requested a number of months ago just to look at sort of the breakdown of incident date based on complaint. This past month in October, there was definitely less distribution over historical periods. A bulk the incident date sat in October. Again, I don't want to speculate in terms of what a trend is here. Are we seeing more misconduct, or are we just having more complaints received by our office? But I don't want to speculate there, but I just know that we have seen an increasing number of complaints. Our office fields them, and so I would like to attribute at least the work that we're doing to becoming more visible, being in community, making the process of filing a complaint easier and just more accessible generally. The administrative investigation, so in the post-intake phase, if a case is referred, if misconduct is believed to have been committed, the case moves to a full administrative investigation. This is really the deep investigative work that includes additional witness interviews, witness officer, focus officer interviews, and the subsequent investigative summary report that sits before a panel, that sits before the chief, and is ultimately the basis for the discipline that's issued for the officer if the complaint and the conduct is sustained. This is the backlog, right, what we've talked about previously. I do want to call attention to the one case that has been moved back to assigned. I think we had talked about the completion of the investigative work by our investigators in OPCR. There was always that caveat that if the chief's office remanded a case and sent it back for further investigation, that would bring a case back into an assigned status within the backlog. And that's what has happened with this one case. We're addressing this, but want to be fully transparent with where all of the cases from the backlog sit. The remainder, as we have stated previously, sit in supervisory review or beyond. Even with that one case moving back, I still think it's been amazing progress that we've made in the last 11 months. Moving on, this is our current out-of-compliance cases. So these are cases that the complaint date is after that May 2024 date and greater than 180 days old. As you can see, a bulk of them are assigned, but we've also moved a number of these throughout the rest of the investigative and review process. So we've made progress on these as we've moved away from the backlog, just because we know that there is a large volume of work that continues and continues to come in with complaints that we receive on a daily basis. Current complaint, this bucket will always remain smaller. We hope it will remain smaller just based on the volume of complaints that come in and also just our work to get these out the door. But as you can see, we have a number of pending assignments here. But again, the overall piece of the pie that the current compliant and non-compliant cases represents is much smaller than what the backlog was. And we worked through the backlog as we were increasing staffing right over that 11-month period. So I feel much more comfortable about where we are at with our administrative investigation assignments. And just with the structures that have been put in place, with the SOP, the standard operating procedure that really dictates the body of our work and internal affairs work, and really provides some solid structure that has been put in place. And so there are just many pieces and trainings and people in place to get the work done at this point. The review panel. Right, as many of you are familiar with the review panel, we have made, based on the ordinance, the changes to the structure that has been decreased. The size of the panel has been decreased from 5 members to 3 to address some of the administrative burden with scheduling, knowing that there was this backlog of cases. Knowing that there was this backlog of cases from OPCR as well as internal affairs.
Okay. All right, so we've exhausted the time. Can someone make a motion to extend the time so he can finish the report and for any questions?
I move to extend the time by 3 minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Can we add to that?
I'm sorry.
Could we say more than 3?
That's fine, yeah.
5 to 10?
10 minutes?
Okay. All right. The motion's for 10 minutes to extend. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we're going to do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Director Fujisawa, thank you.
Thank you. As you can see here, we've steadily been increasing the number of review panels that have been completed throughout the course of the year, and that began at the end of 2024, just putting in place the set and adopted calendar by the CCPO that set review panel dates. This new ordinance changed to the composition being 3 members instead of 5. Running panels concurrently, 2 panels concurrently. Everything we've done is to set up or to prevent the establishment of a new backlog in just a different phase of the investigation and the review process. So we feel very good about the changes that have been made. Obviously, we're trying to insulate from any shocks from any large volume of cases coming through, but we feel very well positioned, and we're very grateful for the availability of both sworn and civilian members to sit on these panels and to review the cases as a critical part of this process. Here you can just see the overall annual totals, and this is year to date, obviously for 2025. But we're almost 3 times as many cases as we reviewed in the entirety of 2024. So that right there, it really gives me a lot of confidence in our ability to be able to review all of the cases that are coming from the backlog in both IA and OPCR, as well as all of the cases that are current, compliant, and non-compliant. So just really trying to have better distribution so that we're not front-loading and just dumping a number of cases. Just really trying to help everybody absorb the volume of cases that's coming through the pipeline. And with that, any questions?
Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Stanfield.
Director Fujisawa, thank you so much. This is really helpful and really easy to read. Could you just say a little bit more about the incident dates of complaints received, that blue chart? I was just trying to understand how that relates to the slide before it. So it looks like the number of complaints in October was 30 on the chart, but I don't see a 30 on here, so I'm missing something.
So what we're seeing here, this is the breakdown by incident date, and this is all the complaints received in October on the far right column. So that's all complaints received October 2025. Yep. So at the bottom, there was a total of 45 complaints. And so if we go back here, you'll see the green bar. It represents the number of complaints received in October of 2025. So those numbers should match. I think they do. So did that answer?
Is it an easier way to say that when the complaints come in, you're just putting the incident date on this chart?
Yeah, this is just a distribution of the dates of the incident date of complaint.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Everyone else seems to understand, so I will do my homework. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think this is just the breakdown of incident date, and the total complaints that was received was still 45. So this is just showing the distribution there.
Thank you.
Okay.
So essentially 45 people made a complaint, but they're for various times of the year when the actual incident date happened, but you just put it on this chart to say 30, yes.
Yeah, because there was a previous request just to see, because I think it must have started in August, was the first month that we reported this out, and there was a pretty wide distribution than you can see in September. So I think there was just some questioning around, what are we attributing this to? Is it that there is more misconduct? Is this that we are becoming more accessible as an office so that people are comfortable now even reporting historical complaints and violations that they observed?
So I think how I see this is people are more comfortable filing sooner because you had 30 people come in and file a complaint in the complaint actually happened in October of 2025.
And again, I don't want to speculate, but I mean, just based on what we're seeing here, if the distribution skews more towards the current month, I would like to believe that that's the reasoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to appreciate this table. It was a lot more legible than how we've seen the data in previous months.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions? Making sure I don't miss anyone. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Director Fujisawa. We'll ask the clerk to receive and file that report. Next up is the monthly report from the Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. I'll invite Ms. Hastings to come up and present. I've allocated 10 months, not 10 months, 10 minutes for your report.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. So again, my name's Lily Hastings. I am the Senior Project Manager in Internal Affairs. So our table of contents for tonight, we're going to do a very, very brief staffing update. Same thing, we're going to do a brief update on training. We're going to go over our normal statistics and trends. And then the last thing you'll notice is we do have a response from the chief provided within both our report and our PowerPoint with regards to the resolution that was made at last month's meeting from the CCPO. So we'll briefly cover that. All right, so with our staffing, the past few months we've been highlighting that our administrative support specialist position has been vacant. We are very, very, very happy to report that that person has started and has been a humongous help to our division. We actually got a smile from our other administrative support person. She was so stressed. We did not see smiles for a couple months. We got a smile today, so we're really happy to have this person starting in our office. Same thing for our next slide. Again, we just want to continue to express that we, although we do have our staff in place, we are an understaffed unit. We do require additional staffing in order to comply with all of the requirements, including our SOP, the settlement agreement, and the consent decree, and other requirements within MPD and our state and federal requirements as well for reporting. So we just want to keep expressing that we are understaffed and we do still need additional staff in our unit. All right, in terms of training, our update for this month is that the RFP has closed for submissions for the training plan regarding finding an external vendor that can assist IA and OPCR with developing a training plan based on that SOP that we previously had gotten approved through ALIFA. So the RFP was closed for submissions. We reviewed those proposals with a panel of members from both IA, OPCR, and also members from the City Attorney's Office and our MPD training unit. And currently what we are doing right now is we are in the middle of our interview stage with those vendors. Moving on to our statistics and trends. These statistics were taken as of end of day on November 13th. So in regards to intakes, we had 14 open intakes as of end of day on 11/13. The average age is 29 days, and our average duration to complete that intake phase is 27 days. So we're really happy to report that these numbers are back under 30. I know there was about a month, maybe 2 months in there where we were above 30. So we're excited to be back down under our 30-day limit for our intakes. Regarding our admin investigations, we had 48 open cases as of end of day on November 13th. Our average age is 244. I will call out that that is increasing again from last month. I believe it's about 10 to 15 days increasing from last month's average. Of those 48 cases, 2 of them are considered backlog cases, 28 are considered our non-compliant cases, and 18 are considered our current cases. Of those 48, 41 are currently assigned out to our investigators, and 7 of them are unassigned. I believe it was not in the report, but we'd previously talked about the fact that we had gotten some new investigators in with those new sergeants transitioning in our unit. So we're happy to report that one of those sergeants has now been able to start taking our admin investigations. We have another one hopefully able to take administrative investigations as of the end of this month. And then our third one is spending additional time in intake training while we try to get her full training through intake, expedited dispositions to move her into the administrative investigation phase. Moving on to our expedited dispositions, we have 4 cases in this category. 0 of them are considered backlog. Very happy to report that number finally. We have 1 of the 4 that are considered our non-compliant cases, and 3 of the 4 are considered our current cases. Moving on to our last portion, which is our cases that are in supervisory review. Just a reminder that this includes both administrative investigations and our expedited dispositions. We have 194 cases. 63 of those cases are considered backlog. 118 of those cases are considered non-compliant, and 13 of those cases are considered current. I do have, it's the same slide that we provided last month in here, kind of explaining the reason for why that number in that supervisory review stage is so high and why it continues to increase each month. The only thing I would like to call out on this slide is the very last bullet point here that we added this month. With the lack of permanent resources coming, we believe one of our options that we must explore at this stage is potentially utilizing an RFP to get some outside help to help us clear some cases through this stage so that they can move forward onto the review panel and to Chief's office. Moving on to our Chief's office statistics. Total administrative investigation cases currently at Loudermill hearings. We have 4 cases currently out at Loudermill hearings. And then we have 33 total cases. That is not inclusive of the 4 at the Loudermill hearings, but we have 33 that are currently within Chief's office. 23 of that 33 is from OPCR, and 10 is from Internal Affairs. Again, we do have the same slide that we had the last month, kind of explaining what it actually means to be in that Chief's office status, and that there's a variety of different steps beyond just having Chief review that case file, including drafting and review of all of the Chief's memos, or what we call corrective action memos, and sending out different notifications to the complainants, to the focus employees. If there's discipline, we do have to send notifications to human resources and payroll just to make sure that everything's documented properly. And all of those steps are encompassed in what we call Chief's office status. So just providing that context. With regards to grievance and arbitrations, we do have 4 cases that are currently in a discipline-related grievance category. This is inclusive of both IA and OPCR cases. With regards to discipline-related arbitration, we have 3 cases, inclusive of both IA and OPCR, that are at the arbitration stage. I do also want to highlight that we published a variety of different disciplinary decisions up on the police discipline dashboard. The link is provided in this PowerPoint. It is also in the report. And online, for anyone that's trying to search, if you just type in MPD police discipline dashboard, it should be the one that shows up right away on Google. We do have 12 cases here that were recently published. Any of the ones that have an asterisk by them are the ones that were an administrative investigation that went through a panel. So those are cases where likely individuals that are on this board probably saw that case through a panel. The cases that don't have an asterisk on them are cases typically that are expedited dispositions that bypassed the panel stage and went straight to the Chief's office and resulted in a settlement agreement with the disciplinary decision that still goes up on the dashboard. So we have highlighted those ones here as well. Moving on, just for some further context, we do still have 21 cases that are pending review for any potential redactions from City Attorney's Office and City Clerk's Office prior to publication on the dashboard, the discipline dashboard. 13 of those 21 are expedited dispositions, and 7 of the 21 are administrative investigation cases. So again, that 7 are things that had already been through a review panel, presumably a review panel that had at least some members of this body on it. Moving on to our normal kind of trend data, with our intake data, these are all separated out by incident date, with our oldest being an incident date in January 2024. We do have all of our intakes that are currently in progress separated out by incident precinct as well. I believe we did have a bit of a shifting this month.
Motion to add 10 more minutes.
Thank you for beating me to it. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Hastings?
All right. I was just going to highlight, I think we had a little bit of a shift this month with which precinct had the most incidents. Moving on to our admin investigation data, this is all separated out again by incident date. Last month we highlighted that there's nothing remaining in that 2020 column. This month I'm going to highlight that there is nothing remaining in that 2021 column, and that our 2022 and 2023, I guess they're not columns, but bars are shortening. So now we only have 3 cases in each of those years. So we're hoping that they continue to go down, and we can hopefully report that we just have 2025 and 2024 cases open very soon. Moving on to our incidents, our admin investigation separated out by precinct. This one looks pretty similar to what it did last month. Again, just due to the nature of an investigation, since typically most of the cases that were open last month are still open this month, this chart tends to not change quite as frequently as that intake one does. Moving on to our backlog update, down at the bottom you'll see our November 13th. We do still have those 2 open administrative investigations that are still ongoing for our backlog. And then for, I think this is our last one, the percentage of our backlog cleared. And just a reminder that cleared meaning it is in its final disposition state at closure. We are now up to 58% of our backlog being fully cleared. All right, the last thing I want to note is we do have Chief's response to the resolution that was made last month. We have included it here. We have also included it in the report. So I'll give you guys a moment to read this. I unfortunately am not able to take questions on this one tonight, but if there are questions, we can certainly report them back and get an answer during the next meeting. All right. With that, I believe that is it. I'm going to leave this up, though, in case anyone's reading.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing no. Commissioner Shanfield.
Ms. Hastings, thank you so much for including, in particular, which cases have been posted, the closed cases. That's really helpful. And I would encourage other commissioners to look at those, and if there are any cases that you sat on, I found it really enlightening to read the summary of what happened. That will help us with on the Police Policy Research and Recommendations Committee tremendously, so thank you so much for adding that. I'm wondering how heavy of a lift it will be to provide synopses like OPCR does.
Yep, so I can speak a little bit to that. Unlike OPCR, we do not have any data staff in our Internal Affairs Bureau. The only person that is pulling any ounce of data is myself. Where that will be is that will be another task list kind of added on to the many, many hats that I currently wear. I have been in communication with City Attorney's Office on how we can do it and how we can strategically maybe kind of limit how much work that would take for us to provide. But again, as we've talked about with the staffing resources, I don't know that it's going to be an immediate ask in order for us to get it immediately with this request.
Could you speak a little bit about the benchmark system and sort of what's coming?
Yep, I can talk about the benchmark system. For those of you that are not familiar with the benchmark system, we are transitioning out of our current RMS or case management system, Axon Standards, and our legacy system, Practice Manager, into a new system called Benchmark. Myself and Elena Starr over in OPCR have been putting in extensive work, I think for close to probably about a year at least, at this rate, trying to make sure that we have every possible field in this new system for all of the different types of data that is typically requested. We've used previous CCPO reports to make sure that we do have fields that we can query and get easily accessible data for moving forward with our CCPO reports. We also compared it to the settlement agreement and the consent decree to make sure that every single request within both of those documents of summary data that we do need to provide has an easily queryable field, meaning that that's something that we could pull a report on in a matter of minutes or maybe an hour versus having to manually go into all of our different case files and try to build our own spreadsheet and try to, manually gather all of this data like we're currently doing. So we tried our absolute best, between both of our teams to make sure that we have every possible reporting statistic that we can imagine we might be asked built into this new benchmark system. We're still quite a few months out from implementation of that system, but we did get some dates today, and we will hopefully have a pilot up and running here within the next few months.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll direct the clerk to receive and file that report.
Thank you.
Did you want to?
I would like to make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ms. Hastings, and again, thank you so much. I would like to make a motion for IA to begin providing synopses of closed cases. I understand that's a heavy lift, but that is something that would be really helpful to us. They would be, much like OPCR does, anonymized summaries of matters that have been completed through the entire review process, cases that have been fully investigated, deliberated by a review panel, and finalized by the police chief. Having these summaries will strengthen our oversight work and allow us to make more informed decisions. Could I have a second?
Just a second.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? No discussion? Okay. All right. Clerk, I'll have you call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Clement.
Yep.
Baker.
Yes.
Zyla.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Bartz.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
And Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes.
All right, thank you. The ayes have it. That motion passes. Thank you. Next up is the monthly report from the Police Department's Implementation Unit. Commander Wilkes is here to present today. I'll have allocated 10 minutes for this report.
Do you mind if I can call BC Farmer to answer that previous question or address that previous comment?
Sure.
BC Farmer, before I get into this presentation.
Good evening. I just wanted to comment just briefly on the last resolution and motion and just reiterate the staffing shortage IA faces. Every day, we are prioritizing what fire we're going to put out and really trying to prioritize this backlog of cases. And to get through the cases in a way that still shows the courtesy to both the complainants and the officers, in a way that is not rushed, but is still transparent and follows the rules, right? Ms. Hastings very significantly underrepresents the time commitment that she puts in to work that is not within her job description and does not get paid for. And she's been doing that for longer than a year. And to be tasked with another task that is outside of her job description, because essentially that is what that motion is seeking, because she's the only one who can do that type of work. Because we have intake investigators, we have sergeants, we have a lieutenant and a commander, we have this new admin personnel, which we just discussed, we're glad to have, who is going to hopefully take over for an individual who can literally retire at any day, and is very happy to have this new admin personnel. And honestly, it's just plugging holes every day to get any regular work done because of the additional work that we are being tasked to do on any given day, done, benchmark, audits. I mean, there's incomings probably 2 to 3 times a day. She has benchmark meetings every day, probably 2 to 3 times a day that she's mandatorily required to go to so that we can get this off the ground. And I'm not saying this to say that we cannot eventually do these things, because absolutely I want, my whole goal is to be transparent. And I think anyone in MPD will tell you I am the most honest, transparent person there is in MPD right now. But what is happening is we are risking not getting done IA's job, which is to review complaints and give the public what they are asking for at the expense of things, summarizing things that happened years ago. And what I really want to do is give the individuals years ago who made complaints and the officers a resolution. And in order to do that, I have to task my people in IA to do the work, including myself. And I'm part of that. But when we are trying to answer these questions or trying to provide data on any given occasion, because it comes from a higher power, right? City council, OCS, whomever, city auditor, UCMT, and I mean, I can't even give you the number of data requests IA gets on any given week. We are unable to get through our primary mission. And I just wanted to make that statement so you understand the gravity of what those numbers represent. Supervisory review is Ms. Hastings. You saw the backlog in supervisory review. It's Ms. Hastings, a lieutenant, and a commander. The lieutenant and the commander are new. They cannot properly get through a supervisory review of a case in any meaningful way at this point in time, which is why we are looking to do an RFP to resource outside counsel, which I just think is a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. And so I just want to reiterate the importance of, at some point, letting internal affairs do the job that we want internal affairs to do, which is investigate misconduct cases so that we can resolve the misconduct cases with the decency that they require and give the public and the officers the answers. Thank you.
Would you state your name for the record?
Oh, yes, I apologize. I'm Bureau Chief Ayodele Famodu, and I'll spell that Ayodele, last name Famodu.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Commissioners. I'm going to give a report on the Minneapolis Police Department Implementation Unit. Haven't been here, I think, in a couple months here. But for the most part, we have been focusing on policy. So that's where we've been at for quite some time here. So our agenda for now is just we're going to look at the previous requests that was asked the last time I was here. Some key updates with community engagement, where we're at, health and wellness, touch on that portion, talk about policy, some of our approved policies, and then a little bit about training, where we're at in the training process, what's on the docket, and data, just a reiteration on our systems and where we're at, and then next steps. The previous request, if I can remember correctly, when I was here, we were talking about ride-alongs. And so I wanted to just give some information and just give context here. Sergeant Willie Wright, Lamondre Wright within implementation unit, if you wanted to directly just reach out to him, he will be able to help you and assist with scheduling ride-alongs. But we also have it where if you're looking at a particular precinct, you can also call one of those desk officers, and then they can get you signed up as well. So Sergeant Wright, he is willing to take you on a ride along if you want to, otherwise, and assist in the transition with connecting you with a precinct. Otherwise, you can just call a precinct directly yourself. We talked a little bit about community members attending trainings, MPD trainings. And right now, we have been working on a couple of different avenues. One of the ways is the training unit, Commander Brown. They're working on different avenues where community members can come. And so that I will have to get an update through Commander Brown, or the update will need to come through Commander Brown. We are also designing and tailoring opportunities for community members, such as we have been working closely with the training unit on developing maybe a Citizens Academy, where we can develop more opportunities to get more community members involved in our process. But that's in the works, just so the next update, I'm not updating there. But so that's some of the different avenues that we're looking at as it relates to attending MPD trainings. Community engagement, this has been a portion that we've been working on for probably 6 months now, and that was revamping and reestablishing our community engagement unit. We have 2 of the 3 positions filled. Rita, who's sitting in the back here, she is one of our community specialists who just came on board. So this is her first time attending a CCPO meeting, but just wanted to give a warm welcome to her. And so we have been going out, reintroducing ourselves to the community. We have 1 person that's currently in backgrounds, and so once we get that person fully on board, we'll reestablish those relationships. And right now, the 2 that are currently there, they're already interacting with community members and trying to see how we best fit. What we have been doing within the community engagement unit is creating a plan, an overall plan. You know, what are our goals? Where do we see ourselves? How can we be transparent? How can we include and get the most majority out of the work that we're doing? So we are creating a plan. We have been working with different units, or different units within MPD on things such as mentoring programming. That's with the training unit right now. Developing a culture education series, and this is where we create a video, and this is also working with the training unit as well, and it's produced by MPD training unit to educate officers on different community groups, just trying to figure out different avenues so that we can be educated, and we can be most educated. If you look at that last bucket there, we have on top of the culture education series and the mentoring and sitting down with different youth groups and engaging youth for policy feedback. That's one of the things that we've been working on, really trying to get those groups out there who can target youth so we can bring them to the table as well when we're doing policy. We've also been outside with different neighborhood organizations at their meetings, just giving them a regular update as necessary and trying to pull on their resources as well. The Sheridan neighborhood meeting, this was on before I had a chance to look at it, but that was canceled and rescheduled. Back in August, we had to cancel as far as officer wellness and support, we had to cancel our family field day, and that was rescheduled for Saturday, October 18th this looks like it was at Hamilton School. As it relates to officer wellness, I think one of the questions was, what are we doing with officer wellness? Well, we've recently had several policies approved related to officer wellness, and I think the last time we were here, we were working on a policy so that we could start implementing other plans around officer wellness and support. So right now we have member health and wellness, members medical information and injury incident response as it relates to health and wellness that we have been able to approve. But just to reiterate, these policies are approved by ALIFA, but they're not effective until the whole department has been trained on those policies. As far as the policy update, some of the policies that we have approved is use of force, crisis intervention, mention vision, values, and goals, non-discriminatory policing, procedural justice, emergency medical response, body-worn camera, that's the BWC, and then officer wellness, which we just touched on. And I think we have a few more that we have recently got approved, and we'll add that to our next update. But you can always scan the QR code to see our most recent updates. While we're talking about policy, we just want to thank CCPO as well, because you guys have been tremendous in giving us feedback in a timely manner, and tons of feedback at that. But just want to thank you for all the hard work that you guys have put into as well. And let's see here, we're at approved policies. Also, we want to just reiterate, we are trying to give CCPO an advance notice, obviously an update as soon as we can, like we did with the immigration policy, so that you guys can begin your work as well. When we look at the training updates, right now we have the critical incident policy, police misconduct policies, and engaging with minors that we're still awaiting approval, so we cannot start developing the training until those policies are approved. Right now we have current training that's in development, which would be our body-worn camera and in-car camera policies. I remember we were talking about acronyms last time, so you'll see the BWC, ICC, that's body-worn camera, in-car camera. Early intervention system, EIS, and wellness, which we actually started our training for that today. The field training officer, they currently are developing that training, non-discriminatory policing, stop, search, and arrest, and supervisor's force review. These are trainings that are in development stages. Trainings that we have approved, use of force, which we've all been through, supervisor leadership, all supervisors have been through, and then our crisis intervention training, which the majority of us have been through those trainings already, and those are approved policies, because we've all went through the training. When you look at our data system, I just keep this up here because I'm hoping to continuously update this slide and change it according to what we have right now. It is a long haul because we are revamping and doing an overhaul to our data systems to make sure we can carry out the parameters of settlement agreement, consent decree, and just make sure overall we are improving the user experience and increasing transparency and data usability for us and the community. So just wanted to just put this up here as a reiteration. We have an approved plan, but we are working with ALIFA on updating our dashboards, updating the way we collect information and the systems that house that information as well. If you want to look at our published reports, use of force and de-escalation policy violation is located at the City of Minneapolis website at the bottom. Our reports are live at that website. So this is a reiteration slide. This was on the previous update as well. And once we have those dashboards updated or whatnot, we'll make sure to give an update here so you guys be able to see it in real or live time. So next steps for us, we're continuously enhancing our project management systems, just to make it more quickly and effective for all. Again, we have so many fires, so many things, so many hoops, so many hurdles that we have to get over, and our systems that we have and the systems that we're looking into is going to be a big part of it, but it's also a long process. So we're using data to inform our decisions, to develop measurable outcomes, and to foster deeper collaborations and reducing silos between us and the community. So just trying to increase that transparency. So that's all I have. All right.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
And just so I forget, if you guys ever wanted to just randomly shoot us an email if you had any questions related to what we're talking about, and our leadership email is here, and this goes to folks from data, community. It's an email that all of the people in leadership within implementation unit have, so we'll all get a chance to look at it, and we can internalize and respond back. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you, and thank you for the implementation unit update. If everybody would indulge me for just 1 minute, I want to continue to do things a little bit out of order here with, we heard from Bureau Chief Famadou after, or as part of this presentation, so this is my first chance to respond. I just wanted to go back and make a brief response to that, if that's acceptable. First, I want to thank you for the perspective and comments that you added about the workload concerns. And obviously, you got 10 commissioners up here. I can't speak for anybody but myself. But I felt compelled to speak because I want to be clear that I emphatically hear you and respect everything you said and would support, anything we can do to try to solve those problems. But I also want to be clear that my perspective on that motion would be the same if we were voting now. And the reason for that is I'm convinced, because of everything you said, that we're not going to find a way to get those summaries and that information without more people than the people in this room perhaps hearing that you need additional staff to do that and to do all the other important work that's happening. And so I think we can be on the same side, I guess is what I'm trying to suggest, as at least my own personal way that I'm looking at the factors that came out in that discussion. And I think that's important enough, and that maybe we all weren't thinking of it that way when we voted, and so that's why I'm trying to take us back there. And because it was specific to your position, Ms. Hastings, and we've seen you here reporting, I just want to be clear, I've always been very impressed and very happy with the information that you provide to us. So none of this is to suggest that there are concerns with how you're spending your time or the information you're choosing to give us. The last piece I wanted to add to this, because I am on the PPRR committee, it's become clear that there's a new dynamic between cases that are going through the OPCR side and the IA side of the process. And that wasn't true when I started reviewing cases a year and a half ago. It didn't really matter from my perspective which side of the process a particular matter came in through, because the information we got from everybody was wonderful and the system worked. But now that we have tremendous new resources being put on the cases that are going through the OPCR side, it is a real problem that we don't have that same data on the IA side. So again, speaking for myself, I'd be happy to learn more about this and figure out. I don't want to pretend that I know enough that I can diagnose the staffing problem from where I'm sitting right now, but I'm certainly willing to be part of that conversation and help IA get the resources it needs to analyze that data, because it's important to this commission.
Agreed. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I do.
Commissioner Newman?
Hello. Regarding ALIFA and the policy updates that were approved, what is the next steps of creating those training processes, and then kind of what does that look like for a timeline for the actual officers that will be trained by these methods?
when you say what are the next steps, so from policy, once we have an approved policy, they start to draft the training. The training goes back to ALIFA to see if the training actually has been influenced or has the policy incorporated into it. And once we have that, then we can start, not just schedule the training days, but we can start putting officers through the training and then the implementation of it.
Is that like you would use, I mean, I don't know, you probably don't know exact dates, but I'm just saying like maybe a window of like 6 months to a whole nother year? Because I know when they did have the event with ALIFA was at Lucy Laney, I did attend, but it seems so far out.
Yeah,
That
so
before we could even get approved is the way they were talking, and now we're here. I'm trying to see, is that something coming real soon?
Well, let me say this. We set deadlines for ourselves, internal deadlines. We create training plans. We attempt to do the best we can, but you never really know how long a policy is going to take to be developed or approved in that process, because we had use of force that took over a year just to get an approved policy. So we can set a date, which we have. We set training dates, but they're tentative dates because we don't know when that policy would actually be approved. So we have dates set for training, but if we don't have that policy in a timely manner, it's hard to develop the training and then carry it out by that date. So to answer your question, it's all over the place because we never really know when a policy will be approved. And so we're doing the best we can to like say, hey, use of force and stop search and arrest. They're like really big policies. We know it took us over a year to get this done. It might take us just as long with this one, but we could be wrong with that as well. But we're doing the best we can. So right now we're just analyzing, reevaluating, and trying to do the best we can with what we have. So it doesn't really answer your question, but we set dates, but they're tentative.
So based off this slide, it's not approved by Alifa at this moment?
So the policy is approved, and so then they start developing training.
Correct.
And then the training dates are already set. And so once we get this training approved by Alifa, we can just keep that date. Say it's March 2025, right? So one of the trainings was, I can't remember what one of the trainings were, but say it's supervisor's leadership, right? And we have that approved policy, but no one has been through it. And we say March 2025, we're going to have that training. Well, we just have to have the training approved by Alifa by a certain date so we can carry that out. Otherwise, we're pushing that training as we have done other trainings.
Is there any way that we're able to kind of, from the sidelines view what they're potentially creating for the training process before it's actually implemented to the officers?
I guess I couldn't ask that question. I would have to go to the city attorney, so it wouldn't be something I can answer. But I would take that back, and that'll be on my next update.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. I'll ask the clerk to receive and file that report.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next report is from our Police Policy Research and Recommendations Committee. That report will be given by Committee Chair, Commissioner Shanfield. There are 5 minutes allocated.
I will do my best. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I'll do my best to use my quickest speaking voice.
Okay.
And get it all in. Thank you for the opportunity. The Police Policy Research and Recommendations Committee reviews MPD policies, leverages lessons learned through review panels, and works with OPCR to research innovative practices to provide substantive recommendations so we civilians can have an impactful role in transforming the culture of MPD. Commissioner Kennedy, thank you so much for your comments. I would echo those as well for Chief Famadou. Our most recent work has been to review 9-401, the policy on immigration. And before I dive into the recommendations and summary of those, I just wanted to start with the quote, the famous quote by Martin Niemöller, because I think it really speaks to why we're doing this work. First, they came from the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came from the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. We're committed, and I'll speak for myself, but I know we've discussed this at the PPRR, that we're really committed to making sure that MPD and our community here in Minneapolis is on the right side of history, and we're able to make this city a safe place for everyone. So when we reviewed 9-401, we looked at other cities. We looked at, Commissioner Palmer brought forth the MIRAC recommendations, Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee, and CUAPB shared their recommendations with us as well. We looked at Portland, Denver, St. Paul, Vegas, Las Vegas, Chicago, and New York. And what we learned was that MPD's policy is on par with those cities. As expected, MPD does not participate in federal immigration enforcement and follows policies that separate police activities from federal immigration duties. So we are in support of that. Just a couple high-level overview. You can see the recommendations, and I wanted to give a shout-out to Commissioner Bartz, who took all of the comments from the last meeting, both PPRR and CCPO, and condensed them, and we had a thorough review process, but I know this how much work this takes, and so I really appreciate his work. And I also wanted to give a shout out to the implementation unit. Thank you so much for the opportunity to review. You extended the window from 30 to 45 days, and that allowed us to do a much more thorough job. And it allowed us to be able to bring this to the full commission and dissect it in a smaller group with community input, and then present to you thorough recommendations. So here's a couple just high-level overview. We do believe that more communication with the public is needed. For example, we suggested timely citywide notification. So prompt notification to city officials if MPD notices federal immigration activities. We know that has been the case across the country, so we want to ensure transparency and a coordinated response across city leadership. We also asked for officers to turn their body-worn cameras on when they notice things, even though that's, right now, the policy is in interactions, even if they're not in the interaction directly, but they're part of the scene. We'd like that because we think that will help keep the public safe. And we also recommended further research and collaboration with lawmakers to reinforce local legal protections, which is outside the jurisdiction of MPD. So we're committed to making sure that we follow up on that and pull our weight and conduct some programs of research and study to be able to support the work of public safety across the city. In conclusion, our recommendations reflect a commitment to promoting clear communication, defending residents' rights, and holding law enforcement accountable. And we really appreciate MPD's the opportunity to review the policies and to feel heard and be able to provide input. At our meetings, we spend the other part of the meeting, we spent time doing some work planning, and we are looking at our work for 2026 and doing some planning there. So we invite everyone to come join us at our next meeting, which is December 1st. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay.
Commissioner Bartz, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Seeing no comments or questions, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file that report. Finally, we have a report from the Community Engagement Committee from the Chair, Commissioner Smith, and we have 15 minutes allocated for this report.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'd like to report on 3 items for you. One is our communications toolkit. The second is a resolution that we hope will come before the body at our next meeting concerning an assessment of the first 2 years of our disciplinary panel process. And third, I want to address the issue of our challenge in having a quorum at our Community Engagement Committee. At our November 10th meeting, we had 3 commissioners present and 1 participating by telephone, but that doesn't count for the city's purposes, and so we lacked a quorum. We did a lot of work through the evening, however, especially on our communications toolkit. Members have in their packet the contents of this toolkit. It consists of first a flyer. Let me just step back and say this toolkit is going to be your resource to go out into the community to meet with neighborhood organizations in the ward you represent, other community organizations you're aware of that have an interest in our work. We want every member of the commission to be equipped to have the tools to go out into the community and share the mission of our work, be able to answer community questions as best you can with the resources we're providing, and bring questions and comments back to this body so that we're informed by the community's needs. So the flyer is the first piece of the toolkit, and it is a summary of who serves on our commission, what our authority is to review policies, to participate in police conduct review cases, and engage with the community around this work. It describes our mission, our vision, and our statement of our authority. So that is basically a one-page handout that can be left and give someone a summary of our work. We've also have a working document that we're calling Frequently Asked Questions, where we anticipate questions you might get out in the community about CCPO and the work we're doing, and provide some sample answers so you're equipped with that. And again, as you go out into the community and bring questions back, we can keep building on this document. Finally, there's also a PowerPoint that presents all of this information in a PowerPoint format that also describes in detail how we go through and do policy review, how we participate in review panels to review disciplinary cases coming from both internal affairs and OPCR, and describe, again, our authority and our broad strategic vision and goals. So finally, the toolkit also includes your own way to find the neighborhood organizations, neighborhood associations that are within the ward you represent, find a quick contact to your police precinct inspector commanding your precinct to reach out there. Also a tool for signing up for all kinds of related city communications or newsletters that are constantly coming to keep us all informed about community safety business within the city enterprise. And then finally, to be able to sign up and receive all the updates from ALIFA, the Independent Monitor. So we are very, very grateful for all of the staff work that has come from OPCR and Ms. Zhang to help us prepare this content. What we would like is your blessing to support the contents of this toolkit with the understanding that the Community Engagement Committee will continue to work with staff on its design and also fine-tuning so that it's something that you can use and go out in the community on a regular basis. I'm happy to answer any questions, but maybe to keep us focused, I'd like to make a motion that the Commission approve the contents of this toolkit and direct the Community Engagement Committee to oversee its design with support from the city staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been motion and second. Any further discussion? All right. Clerk, if you can call the, oh, I missed somebody. Commissioner Newman?
Yeah, I was just going to add to piece to it that, we were trying to also discuss about, possibly, I don't know if we would all have to agree upon it, of course, but one of the flyers maybe having a picture of us to make it be a little bit more inviting to introduce who we are so community members can know that as well. And then just kind of create a QR code of more like a business card type where it could be an easy way to make complaints so there's not any confusion to any community members that wanted to make one, so that it's not like an onion, they have to, bury themselves to file, the file down to get to where to make that complaint at and what it kind of looks like, and just make it easier for people to get that information. But I just wanted to add those pieces to that.
Okay.
It'd be, for that one page, it'd be nice if we were able, as CCPO, to take either a group picture. If you agree to have your picture on there, that's fine, or some folks, maybe the picture from NACOL or something to that effect, but just so it's a little more inviting.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, clerk, if you can call the roll on that motion, please.
Commissioner Shanfield,
Enthusiastic, yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Clement,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Zyla,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Bartz,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
and Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes.
All right, thank you. That motion passes. All right, next up is a policy recommendation from OPC. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, you had two other items.
If I
My
might
apologies,
speak to
Commissioner
two
Smith.
other items.
Go
I think
ahead.
I still have time left. Very quickly, our committee members discussed a draft resolution that is currently being reviewed by the city attorney that requests that the Civil Rights Department prepare a research project or study of the disciplinary panel process as it is operated for the 2 years that we've been in existence. We envision a survey of both our civilian members of the panel, maybe members of the Civil Rights Commission who have also served in the panels, as well as the sworn members, and would involve a request going to the police department leadership that it authorized the sworn members to participate in that survey. I think it's a helpful way to bring both objective information and comments, qualitative information back before this body, so we can together assess how this process is working, what's working well, and what needs improvement, and so that we might make further recommendations about the process going forward. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that and watching for that as we get to our next meeting. Finally, we've had some challenges on our Community Engagement Committee engaging our members of the committee. We've had a challenge meeting a formal quorum, and the chair has helpfully sent out a reminder to all of our committee members about the importance of committing, and I think all of our members that are here tonight have committed to be able to attend and participate. But we're asking that for each member, you really take a careful look and assess your ability to attend at least 80% of the meetings, meaning at least 9 or 10 meetings of the year of the committee. And if that's not a feasible thing, then you would hopefully feel liberated from having to serve on the committee and recognize that we wouldn't need to count your seat toward the quorum, and we could then more effectively convene a quorum and keep pushing the business along. So this is just something we were asked to bring up, just to emphasize the importance of that commitment. And with that, Madam Chair, that completes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
In commenting to what Smith did say, I understand that the ordinance says we only need to meet 8 times a year, and we're meeting 12 times a year. So by meeting monthly, so then are we going to maybe consider canceling December or January, Christmas or New Year's, or just these other things? Because then we're asking people to attend something 80-90% of the time when we're over meeting based on our ordinance.
I see these two things as separate. The Community Engagement Subcommittee, as well as this body, can meet 8 times a year, but the subcommittee, they can choose their own calendar if it doesn't work.
I apologize. I thought he was saying he was bringing that up in the sense of our meetings and our quorum as a whole.
Just the Community Engagement Committee.
Oh, I'm not on that committee. I apologize, Smith.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll receive and file that report. Next up is a policy recommendation from OPCR. I'll ask Director Fujisawa to come back up to speak to this item.
Hello again. I do not have the recommendations themselves, as I know they've been previously presented to the PPRR, I believe, at the August convening of that committee. I think some context is helpful, too, for a recommendation coming from OPCR to the body. I know we've discussed PPRR's work, as well as OPCR and the policy and research team that Lillian DeJong heads up, and its role in facilitating research and studies, both internally within OPCR and civil rights, but also in conjunction with the CCPO. Obviously, the policy and research team, through the casework, through our office, through complaint and intake, we generate and maintain a vast amount of data, and that's tied to complainants, that's tied to the complaints themselves, that's tied to the violations that we observe, the alleged violations versus those that are ultimately charged, as well as outcomes data, right? And so we have this ground level Minneapolis Police Department, City of Minneapolis level data. But then we also know we are under a settlement agreement, formerly a consent decree. There are other cities across the country and municipalities, departments that have gone through this process, are at different stages of this process. So we know that there are, different iterations of a lot of the work that we are currently going through or will go through, and that includes some policy development that is based upon best practice, and that leverages some of the experience, the learnings, the challenges, the failures of other cities and other municipalities, so that we can hopefully avoid some of those problems. So trying to bring the ground level up and also bring from a national level down and be able to apply that to what we're seeing here in Minneapolis, both with the community and both with the police department and civil rights. So I think it's important to understand sort of at least what I'm hoping that our team can do, and that is really a critical response between Lalinda in the policy and research team, as well as our management analyst, which is one of the newer roles that we had this year. And so the management analyst, what I sort of see and what I've envisioned is that individual is bringing that top-down approach, finding what is best practice, doing the research at a national or even state level, and trying to work with Lalinda and the policy research team to apply it in a meaningful way here in Minneapolis. Early on in his tenure, that management analyst identified that there was a gap, that there is not a standalone sexual misconduct policy within the Minneapolis Police Department's Policy and Procedures Manual. At its core, that's an issue because sexual misconduct is obviously a serious breach of public trust. It can seriously diminish the integrity of a department, of a city, and its relationship with the community. Within the Minneapolis Police Department, P&P, the policy and procedures right now, the closest thing that we have to a sexual misconduct policy is the 2106 section, but that relates almost exclusively to internal employee sexual misconduct. What we are concerned with and what we've sort of flagged with PPRR as well as with the department is a lack of an explicit policy that addresses sexual misconduct when it's committed or when it involves a member of the public. And so that is a very important distinction. This recommendation that we've put together also aligns, as I mentioned, with best practice at a national level, including with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, with MDHR, with the DOJ, with other municipalities that have gone through consent decrees and settlement agreements. So, I mean, at its core, and I want to try to stay brief because this has already been presented to at least a few members here. And the recommendations themselves are fairly clear. It is to create a standalone sexual misconduct policy that examines. It's a dedicated policy that addresses non-criminal sexual misconduct. We think there is a requirement to, with all other policies and trainings, clearly and explicitly define what that entails, and make sure that the expectations are clear, and we want to reduce ambiguity because those gaps, as we currently see, and as we know that MPDIU is working through right now, we need explicit policies that are clear, concise, trainable, and easily internalized by our officers so that they are equipped to deliver on the policies that they are being trained on, and really deliver on their role as law enforcement and community, to keep community safe. And so I do want to highlight, and I think Commissioner Newman, this probably goes to some of your questions just in terms of what that process looks like, and it's very similar, right? It's the development of the policy itself. It's based on state statutes that we have here, considerations for sexual misconduct investigations. It's the development of the subsequent training after approval of that policy, and then that's really where what we are hoping, what we anticipate as the Office of Police Conduct Review, is the policy and research team, and hopefully as PPRR, is that we would see obviously a decrease in the number of sexual misconduct related complaints that we see just because of the policy, because of the training, because of the awareness. And we know that this is sort of the challenge that we have with other policy violations that we've examined previously, right? Is this because, will we see this decrease in reports and sustained complaints because it isn't happening as much, or because it's not being reported as much? Because we know there are, ongoing challenges with reports of sexual misconduct, and just the number of reports is likely lower than the actual incident of misconduct. So these are all considerations that are explicitly outlined here in the recommendations themselves, along with some existing policies that we have pulled from. I think Chicago was most recently one of the larger cities under a consent decree that developed a standalone policy. Recently, I think it was earlier this year. I do also want to note that we did have a conversation with MPDIU, with Commander Wilkes and Lieutenant Robinson, as well as the policy development team to have this conversation, and they were very much in alignment with the need. I think it ultimately comes down to the fact that it is not an explicit requirement in the settlement agreement and the consent decree. Notwithstanding, it should be a policy that the department develops and adopts, and they were in complete agreement and alignment. It is simply a capacity and a prioritization issue right now. That being said, we are remaining in contact with MPDIU to see if there is, an opportunity, if there is capacity that is freed up, that we can work closely with them to support that development of the policy, if it's available, work through the training development and the implementation there. But I just wanted to give some, some perspective in terms of how we as OPCR and civil rights are working together with MPDIU, but also PPRR, as well as community and best practice, to develop these recommendations and present these findings to the body. One, so you're aware, but two, because there has been an ongoing relationship between OPCR and the CCPO in terms of policy and research study development. I didn't want to take up too much time because I know there's probably some discussion that needs to be had, since this might be the first that some commissioners are hearing of this recommendation, since it was only brought up at the PPRR a couple months ago.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Vice Chair Olson.
Yeah, I want to thank you for this suggestion, for the work you've done on it. I find myself totally in alignment with the recommendations, and wonder, I think this body can serve a role in supporting that, and I wonder if one way to do that isn't to have us refer the matter to PPRR to work with the city attorney's office to develop a resolution to support this in the appropriate way.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Can we
Commissioner
make
Sheffield.
can we make that a motion?
I'll move that, yes.
And I'll
Can
second
you-
that.
I would ask Vice Chair Olson for you to restate the motion succinctly for the minutes, please.
That we, that the matter of the sexual misconduct policy be referred to the PPRR for discussion, and then with the hopeful goal of developing a resolution along with the city attorney's office so that the full commission can support and have an appropriate resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Shanfield?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? Commissioner Smith?
Mr. Fujisawa, I'm wondering if this general need for the policy, you might have covered this, but if there's been some discussion with MPD and ALIFA about the need for the policy and a recognition of it, and if so, what's the nature of that discussion?
And I appreciate the question. And there has not been like an explicit need just based on cases or complaints that's driving the development here. I do know that just because of the potential impact of a case that is, sexual misconduct in nature, it can be very problematic and can set the department and the city back substantially in a very short period of time. And so it's the anticipation, not necessarily of it happening, but just the problematic nature of not having a policy that explicitly outlines a response, an investigation, and appropriate and corresponding discipline.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you. I support the motion and support the proposed policy. I was part of the longer presentation with PPRR. I just wanted to make one comment regarding something you said towards the end of your presentation, that perhaps some of the prioritization of this is affected by the fact that it's not part explicitly of the MDHR settlement agreement and the consent decree. And it's the first time, at least in my mind, that we're hearing that as something that the city's kind of grappling with. So that's why I wanted to, I guess, give my response, which is we shouldn't turn away good ideas just because they weren't in the settlement agreement. And I think that's, obviously I know OPCR has that viewpoint. I really thank OPCR for bringing this issue forward and the very thorough briefing, not just prepared by the city, but all the background. It's very helpful to see and put the recommendation in context. And so I think it's a good sign that as a city, we're considering ideas outside of these very comprehensive agreements that courts are making us look at, but we're also finding other things to address.
Thank you. And I do want to reiterate that MPD-IU is very much in alignment with the importance of this policy development. And I do also want to acknowledge their constraints in terms of prioritization, just with their capacity and all the requirements, especially with what Commander Wilkes was outlining with their policy requirements right now in very large scale, very substantial, very foundational policy development. So, I recognize both the importance of this policy recommendation as well as all the other work that they're doing. So it's trying to strike that balance and really identify the best ways that we can support with their limited capacity so that we can get something in place as quickly as possible. I did also just want to briefly mention, especially because Commander Wilkes was talking about EIS and employee wellness, there also are, as you'll see in the recommendations here, ties into the EIS, the early intervention system, for flagging potential issues with officer conduct, and that ties into employee wellness as well in terms of making sure that they are trained, supported, even when there are potential flags with EIS, right? That is not just a reason for discipline, but it's instead, how do we have corrective action? How do we train if necessary? So it's really identifying a problem before it is one. So there are considerations for that in here as well. So I encourage you to look at that as well as some of the other best practices.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Clerk, if you can call the vote on the motion, please.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Clement.
Yeah.
Baker.
Yes.
Zyla.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Bartz.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
And Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes.
All right, thank you. The ayes have it. Next up, we've received public comments from residents concerning delays in MPD's response times in their ward, and we take those concerns very seriously. Because these are recurring concerns and not isolated incidents, I believe it's essential that our body take action within our authority to understand what's happening and ensure accountability. I'd like to make a motion to have the CCPO officers send a request to MPD and Minneapolis Emergency Communications Center, which is the MECC, for calls for service data to be provided to OPCR. As our staff liaison, OPCR can assist us in analyzing this data so we can identify any patterns, understand the scope of the issue, and determine what steps may be needed to address the concerns residents have repeatedly raised. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, clerk, if you can call them all.
Commissioner Shanfield.
I'm sorry, I wasn't mentally present, so I'm going to abstain.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Clement.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Zyla.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Bartz.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Aye.
and Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 9 ayes and 1 abstention.
All right, thank you very much. That passes. Next up is an update on the Chiefs review. Commissioner Barnett has sent out an email to everyone with info to schedule a meeting with him individually. There is a deadline date, I believe, of December 2nd to complete the review survey, and then they will schedule an individual meeting. That email came out several hours prior to this meeting today, so please check your email and respond. And then let me know if you have any questions. All right. Just want to put that out there.
I have a question about that.
Commissioner Shanfield.
It looks like it's a survey, is that right? Are we also meeting, I think when he was here last, he said we were going to meet one-on-one with him. Is that still part of the plan?
So, yep, you respond to the survey first, and then they schedule an individual meeting if you would like to. It's optional for those that may not want to. You don't have to, but you can do the survey first. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Is there an option to meet collectively rather than individually?
I was to do it individually because of someone's personal review about their performance. So, meeting with him individually. You could choose to not meet with him if you don't want to, but yeah. And just do the survey. Okay? All right. Next up is hearing from the committee chair to share their theory of actions. Commissioner Smith, would you like to start us off with the Community Engagement Committee's theory of action?
Yes. Our committee members discussed this and have offered the following language. CCPO will engage in listening sessions at neighborhood and community organizations, share data and reflections on experiences with the police disciplinary panels, and hold informal conversations with community members to build stronger community awareness of and trust in its work, and have a more impactful role in providing meaningful and effective oversight of the police and their interactions with the community. The CCPO welcomes community voices and encourages shared dialogue. Madam Chair, I would move to accept this theory of action for the community engagement strategic goal.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? All right.
Can I ask a question? When you say meet in community, you mean like meet in the ward we represent?
Madam Chair, the word community appears several times. Maybe you could highlight where you're looking? Or?
I'm asking you a question. You just said that, if I'm hearing you correctly, that it would allow CCPO members to meet in community, to go over data and to go over these things with community. Did I mishear you?
No, this is a statement of our theory of action that we will engage in listening sessions at neighborhood and community organizations.
Got it. Thank you
Yes.
for the clarification.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, clerk, if you can call the roll on that motion, please.
Commissioner Shanfield,
Aye.
Newman,
Aye.
Clement,
Aye.
Baker,
Aye.
Zyla,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Bartz,
Yes.
Smith,
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson,
Aye.
and Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes.
All right, thank you. The ayes have it, and the theory of action for the Community Engagement Committee is adopted. Next, we will hear from Commissioner Shanfield on the theory of action for the Police Policy Research and Recommendations Committee.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to direct everyone's attention to the CCPO Outreach Toolkit in your packet right after the implementation unit presentation. On the third page of that is where Commissioner Smith read theirs from, and ours is there as well. So just in case you want something to follow along with. For the Police Policy Research and Recommendations Committee, we will review policies, leverage lessons learned through review panels, and work with OPCR to research innovative ideas in order to provide substantive recommendations to MPD, so CCPO as a whole can have a more impactful role in transforming the culture of MPD. What that really means is that we're looking at policies, we're learning from panels, and we're suggesting and researching innovative practices. So that's what we've been focused on in PPRR, and this is a way to formalize it for our strategic plan so that we have it in writing. Are there any questions?
Any questions from commissioners? All right, seeing none. Commissioner Shanfield, would you like to make the motion?
Yes, I would like to submit this as the theory of action for PPRR committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, clerk, if you can call the roll.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
Clement.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Zyla.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Bartz.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
And Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes.
Thank you. The ayes have it, and the theory of action for the PPRR work group is adopted. Clerk, do you see the calendar dates? I'm not seeing it. It's on the agenda?
Last page.
Oh, thank you. The last page in your large packet has the 2026 CCPO calendar. So the regular meeting dates for January and February are before us. We have on here a CCPO meeting being January 12th and February 9th. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners regarding those two dates in January and February?
Can you clarify why are we just doing 2 months and not?
We have to wait until the city council does their official calendar. If the clerk wants to clarify that.
Okay.
I see head nods.
I'm sorry, Chair, did you say, did we want to clarify that? Yes, so especially at the beginning of a new term, we don't even have a council calendar adopted because we adopt that for 4 years at a time. So, and unofficially, I think the city enterprise largely follows the council calendar to some degree. So the whole city is probably kind of on pause right now because we just finished an election and we'll be adopting a calendar on January 5th.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments? Commissioner Sheffield.
I'm wondering if we could have a brief discussion up here about the cycle of meetings. So like when the committees should meet ideally based on when the large group meeting is. I just love some people's ideas. I have my own, but curious if we could discuss sort of the ideal and then when we get the council calendar, we can amend as needed. When do people think ideally the committees would meet in relation to the large meeting?
Commissioner Smith, did you have an idea as a chair?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schonfield, I guess I find it helpful to have the committee meeting separated by at least 10 days from the full commission meeting so that as we, as a committee, will bring recommendations forward, there's time for the staff to do the work, and they might prefer something more like 2 weeks. But something in that cycle. So that, I think, would be the main piece, so that it's separated enough that if the committee has work and recommendations to bring, the staff can finalize it and put it on the full agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Sheffield, your idea for PPRR?
Yeah, similarly, I think then the question would be, can PPRR and community engagement meet the same night or the same week? Does the city have staff capacity for that? Because that would be ideal is halfway through the month.
And I guess that would be a comment for Linda or city staff, if that would be a possibility.
The same night likely won't work because I won't be able to attend both meetings. So different nights would be preferred.
Perhaps in the same week, maybe?
That's okay with me, so long as it's okay with the commissioners.
I wonder if there's a world in which we could do them back to back. Is that crazy?
Perhaps. That's, yeah. I was
Just brainstorming.
It could be anywhere from 4 to 6 hours of meetings after the workday, so I don't know. I don't even know if you guys would want to do that. Yeah.
Fair point. We'll take mercy on you, Linda.
We don't have to go to them, but that heard and appreciated.
Thank you. All right. So we have January 12th and February 9th as the two calendar dates, and then we have some suggestions in terms of when the committees can meet after 10 days approximately. You guys can discuss further with Linda and city staff. If there's no other comments or questions, clerk, can you please call the roll on the two calendar dates for January and February?
Commissioner Shanfield.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Clement.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Zyla.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Bartz.
Yes.
Smith.
Aye.
Olson, Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
And Chair Reeves.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes.
Thank you. The ayes have it, and the January and February regular meeting dates have been adopted. The final item on our agenda is to give an overview of the NACOL conference the commissioners attended. Would anyone like to share their experiences? Not everybody rush. Commissioner Olson.
I'll start. The idea to have commissioners share their experiences came after the final session when a number of us were meeting and doing a quick review of the conference and how valuable we thought it was. So we thought, let's get it on the agenda and let's share what our reactions were. I think. Well, I want to say thanks to whoever in the city is responsible for sending us there, because I think it was an extremely valuable experience. The time you spend with other people who are engaged in this, what they would always refer to as the work, the people who are interested in civilian oversight, who are interested in policing and improving policing. The time we spent together with those other people from across the country was just super enriching and valuable, and it gave me a sort of a new enthusiasm for the work we do. A couple sessions were really valuable to me. One was because of my background, there was a session on legal issues, a session designed for lawyers, and it was kind of an open forum, and led by the general counsel for the City of Philadelphia's Police Oversight Commission. They have their own lawyer, and it was a wide-ranging discussion and just really fascinating to see what kind of issues are common across cities as big as Philadelphia and as small as, Spokane isn't super small, but it was one of the smaller cities there. And I'll highlight one more session more for its story value and interest rather than its direct application to our work, and that was a session on how police departments and oversight bodies are dealing with immigration issues and interaction with Border Patrol and ICE agents. And the story that I keep revisiting in my mind came from two people from the city of Oak Park, Illinois, which is the suburb just west of Chicago and next to the town that the Broadview Detention Facility is in. And the mayor and the head of the city council were both at NACOL, and the mayor described her protest where she was standing on the side of the road at the Broadview Detention Facility next to the city council member, and they were doing exactly the same thing. And the police told her to disperse, and she is a white woman. The head of the city council is named Jose Munoz, and they tackled him and detained him for 7 hours for doing exactly the same thing as the mayor. And I keep thinking of that, and I think there's a good chance that that's coming here, and we'd be well advised to think about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Baker.
It was here today. It was in St. Paul today, but yes. Couple of things that stood out to me. One was, and I don't remember which session it was mentioned, but that the average civilian oversight has 9 staff members and $1 million budget, and that the recommendation is about 1% of the police budget, and our police budget is in the $230 million range. So, listening to being under-resourced when we got the comment about the earlier motion, we're at a disadvantage because we don't actually allocate any resources whatsoever, and so we don't get to pick what type of research we're doing or anything like that. And just thinking about how we can, I mean, I understand some of those dollars are being spent by the city, just not directed by us, but thinking about how we can have civilian oversight when we don't have any of our own resources, or other than what is kind of handed to us. I don't know how to square that. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Kennedy.
I would echo the positive comments that have already been said. Just a couple of additional observations. One, I don't have the conference theme on anything that I brought here with me, so I don't remember what the entire title was, but part of the theme for the entire conference was focused on the post-George Floyd world that we all live in. And it was, at least the way I experienced it from talking to lots of people there, it was meaningful for everybody who was there to be in Minneapolis 5 years after George Floyd. And so it was actually just kind of throughout that whole week, it was an interesting experience to experience that both as somebody who lives in Minneapolis and we're part of this work in Minneapolis, but we were with people from around the country and I think some from around the world who do this work, where it was just as meaningful to them to be here kind of talking about that, the 5 years that we are finishing living through. And so just wanted to make sure everybody understood that theme was kind of repeated throughout the week. We got to hear from a number of local people from within the city and other groups that the commission works with. And so it was a great opportunity for a number of people in Minneapolis to speak to this large group. I wanted to echo the thanks to the city for sending all of us to the conference, giving everybody the opportunity to go to the conference. And so not to rain on the parade of the celebration, but the city almost messed that up. And I think it's important to celebrate that they didn't, but call them out for almost messing that up, because I know it was an expense to register a number of us when the conference happened to be here in Minneapolis, but I was one of the people who was saying that this is an opportunity we can't miss. Obviously, that won't be true in future years, and we won't all have the opportunity to go, but training of this type is really important for whoever is on this commission, and interacting with all the people from around the country who are doing it is very important in ways that are hard to quantify. So it's good that we're talking about it here, but just want to make sure the city understands that there really is an increase in the intelligence and worldview of the commission and the work that we're doing by letting us have those opportunities.
Thank you. I'll just add briefly, I concur with all the comments. Commissioner Kennedy, it's Reckoning and Resilience in the Post-George Floyd Era was the name of the conference for 2025. I've had the pleasure of going for this is my third NACO conference, which is the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. There was something very poignant about it being in Minneapolis. Being here for the 5th year of the murder of George Floyd was very impactful. Shout out to Commissioner Stewart, who was able to give people really good information about touring in George Floyd Square. People were coming up asking because they weren't necessarily getting the right information and how to get there. So she stepped in for that. But it was truly impactful, and got the opportunity to co-chair the board in commissions training on Sunday with wonderful George Perez Velez out of California. He does a lot of training nationally, but also is now on the NACO board. So a powerhouse that we were able to learn from. I'm glad that he was able to be here and train us on that. Just really good experiences, really good conversations. Definitely recommend the public to go on the NACO website, look at what the people are talking about across the country. It's not just little old Minneapolis. There's people from all over the world doing this work that are really passionate about civilian oversight. It looks different in different jurisdictions. We don't get the budget that everyone else gets, but we have a lot of passion on this board. We got a lot of people that want to do this work. So I really appreciate all the hard work, and it's really acclimated when you look at what people are doing across the country and what budgets they're not getting and what support they're not getting. And I think about how Minneapolis is trying their best to support us, because some folks don't even get the support that we need, that we do, even though we don't have the big budget. So kudos to Minneapolis. We always can do things better, but this is hard work, but it's dedicated people like you all that make it happen. So I really appreciate the conference, and thank you. Commissioner Shanfield.
Just three a couple quick reflections here. In addition to echoing what the other commissioners have said, the thing that I can't stop thinking about is the question, I think it was George Perez-Velez who asked, what could be done differently to have achieved a better outcome? And that question really resonated with me of, in any situation, what could have been done better to achieve a different outcome? And I wondered, while we're sitting on a panel, is that a question we can ask at the end? What could have gone differently? And then that needs to inform the policy and the training. So I want to kind of keep that question top of mind. The next thing that stuck out to me is that there is many resources, such as the Evidence-Based Policing Matrix. That's a research to practice translation tool. It collects and summarizes and organizes from moderate to very rigorous evaluations of police interventions, and allows both civilians, agencies, researchers to view a lot of research and best practices. So I'm going to hope, I shared that link with the implementation unit. I'm going to use that with our committee, so that as we're looking at different courses of study and practices. And then at one point, someone, I think in a large session, said constitutional policing is the floor and not the ceiling. Mm-hmm. I realize in our strategic plan and in our mission statement, we talk about constitutional policing. So I'd like to make a motion to amend that and to change that to non-discriminatory policing practices, because I think that's what I learned, is that is a higher level or a next level. And I think I would like us to meet that level. Is that an appropriate time to make this motion?
Yes, if you could restate it, please.
Sure. In our strategic plan and in our mission, I don't have the mission statement here, but I could pull it up.
I think it should be fine. We can just change the language. You just want to change the language from constitutional.
Our mission, thank you. Our mission is to provide strategic recommendations, effective discipline, and excellent community oversight in shaping and sustaining constitutional policing in the city of Minneapolis. That's our current draft of our mission. And I'd like to remove the word constitutional and substitute that with non-discriminatory, please.
Okay. Is there a second?
So moved.
We'll take Commissioner Clemens a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion. Clerk, if you can call the roll on amending our strategic plan language.
Commissioner Shanfield.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Clement.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Zyla.
Aye.
Canada.
Aye.
Bartz.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
And Chair Reeves.
Yes.
There are 10 ayes.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you.
Chair Reeves, I had one last thing.
Okay. Thank you.
For us to put on our radar the deadline for presenting at NACOL, because I think there's opportunity now that we know, now that we've been engaged in the work for a couple years, we're developing our own expertise, and I would really like for us to consider presenting in the future. So let's look it up. I can commit to finding out when the deadline is, but let's keep that on our radar.
Okay, thank you.
Just have a quick comment regarding NACOL for myself. I do agree that it was, a very powerful event. I didn't really like hearing on a couple occasions where some of the speakers were acting as if they didn't know who we were, as well as I was not informed about across the river, just a few miles away, about St. Paul and their commission that they have over there. So I think with us as our body that we should take an opportunity to go across the river, see the work that they're doing, and try to mirror it as well for ourselves here on this end. With the new year coming up, we can maybe make a New Year's resolution to do better, work harder regarding this platform that we have here, and then to get to know our counterpartners across the river.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bartz.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one of my pet interests was actually fairly prominent in a few panels during the convention. Excuse me. And that is in training issues. A few different panelists brought it up, and there was one former officer, actually, 20-year veteran of Cincinnati Police Department, I believe, who raised it in his comments a few times. But the issue of the fact that training can either be an asset reform or an hindrance to reform. So I just wanted to highlight that I want to stay focused on this. I think it's critical. I don't sense that maybe the department agrees that it's that important, but I think it's important for us to track, from settlement agreement through policy into actual training, and to be able to somehow monitor that to make sure that that trainers are being consistent with new policy, especially.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Commissioner Smith.
I think two quick things that I reflected on. One is the informal discussions with people from all over the country that are serving this role was equally valuable to me alongside, attending sessions. And what struck me is there's such a wide variety of authority that civilian review operates with that it's very instructive for us to realize that we're on a continuum, and that we don't just accept exactly the authority the city council have given us, but I think over time, as we learn, we can improve the processes, and also perhaps adjust our authority to better serve the mission. And I think there's so many different examples, both from large cities and small communities that are doing this work, that we can learn from that to advance the mission and reform our charge. And the other thing is an emotional one, which is just to stand in that room where the plenary session first convened. I don't know the exact number, but it seemed like thousands of people gathered from all over the country. It felt like there is a movement of doing this work. And I know it's very challenging, but it was really inspiring to see and connect with that number of people committed to the work.
Thank you. Just another brief, now that you've said that, I would like to point out that Commissioner Lucero from the Department of Human Rights was on one of the panels, and she made a point to say that she watches the commission meetings, and she really appreciated the level of engagement that we had, in particular around the immigration policy, having the discussions on the dais. And she also made a point to say that some of the things that we've discussed, that they've taken back to the work that she's doing and implemented some of those things. We don't usually find that out. We don't hear about that, but she made a point to say that, and I thought that was really nice. So kudos. She is watching, or her staff is watching, and they hear what we talk about, and she makes recommendations or has discussions or do whatever that she does in the world that she sits in with information that she hears from us. So wanted to point that out. And also, Commissioner Shanford, to your point about George Perez Velez and what he stated about what could you have done differently, I think about that when we're doing the panels, and maybe it's helpful when you're doing the panels and listening, when you're making your recommendations, those of us that do sit on panels, put it in your comments. What could have been done differently? It's something that the chief can look at. It's something that the person who's the focus officer can potentially look at. What could have been done differently that would have been better in the situation? Kind of give them a different perspective. So I encourage everyone to kind of use that space in the panel to put that suggestion in there, so people can be seen and heard. So, Commissioner Bartz.
Yeah, I want to second that. I sat in on the officer-created jeopardy panel, which was exceptional. And that was kind of my takeaway, that even when there's situations where an officer helps create a situation where they feel under threat and they feel that they have to use force, including deadly force. Without that extreme example, it kind of applies on lower levels in the basic question of, is the officer escalating or de-escalating the situation? And I think anybody who's been on a panel can kind of, interpret behaviors and statements and tones. But I thought that was, it just reminded me to make note of that and make comments about it in our conclusions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. With that, we've completed all of our agenda items for this meeting. Without any objection, the commission stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.